Okay, my phone says it's 6 o'clock, so let's go ahead and get started. It is today, August 27th at 6 p.m., and we are calling our meeting to order. We'll start by having a Pledge of Allegiance, and I'll go ahead and lead that today. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Let's go ahead to our roll call, starting on my left. Joel?
Joel Temple, no conflicts.
Barbie DeSoto, no conflicts.
Lisa Jensen, no conflicts.
Melissa Kendall, no conflicts.
Ann Allen, no conflicts.
Daniel Gonzalez, no conflicts.
And Jonathan Hill, no conflicts. Before we start tonight, I have a couple statements that I would like to read. First is on the decorum of the meeting. Although this is a public hearing, only the presenters and those invited by the commission may speak or ask questions. Unless otherwise invited by the chair, please wait to speak until called on by the chair. When speaking, please be sure to speak into the microphone so the record is clear. Please state your name and city of residence for the record. Please limit side conversations as they interfere with the audio recording of the meeting. If you need to have a conversation, please step out of the chambers. Please do not attempt to interrupt or speak over people. Intimidating or threatening speech or behavior will not be tolerated at any time. Please refrain from clapping or cheering during the meeting. The other statement I've been asked to read is a clarification from our last meeting. There was some confusion in our last meeting regarding the process for approving an ADU in the city. We'd like to publicly clarify the procedure for those following our discussions. The full process for approving an ADU is outlined in the City Code, Title 14, Chapter 30. In summary, ADUs are permitted in certain areas of the city, including all primarily residential zones west of I-15, all RC zones citywide, and several R1.6 and 1.8 zones east of the freeway. If a property owner, a map of all eligible areas can be found within the code. If a property owner whose residence falls outside of these areas wants to add ADUs as a permitted use on their property, they must apply for a text amendment or a zone map amendment to the code. This application must include key property information and signatures from at least 66% of immediately adjoining neighbors. The Planning Commission and City Council then review the application with the final decision made by majority vote of the council. No single councilor can approve or deny an application on their own. While residents are welcome to contact their council representatives, doing so does not guarantee approval or denial. For more details on the process and protections built into that process, citizens are encouraged to review Chapter 14.30 of the City Code and direct any questions to the planning staff. Thank you.
I acknowledge this clarification.
Okay, so with that, let's go ahead into our agenda. Item 1, Charles Anthony Morales requests a zone map amendment from the RA Residential Agricultural Zone and R1.8 zone to the R1.7 one-family residential zone in order to subdivide an existing lot into 2 lots located at 920 West, 1020 South. And Jessica will be presenting that for us.
Thank you. Yes, as stated in the item title, this is to subdivide the property at 920 West, 1020 South, or to rezone so that it can be subdivided. Currently, the property is in both the RA zone and the R1.8 zone. It cannot be subdivided into 2 lots and meet the requirements of either of the respective lots. The proposed rezone to R17 matches the surrounding density in the neighborhood while still allowing that lot to be subdivided into 2 lots, each of which would be allowed to have a single family dwelling on the lot. I have been informed that they did ask the adjoining neighbor if they wanted to also join in on this rezone or stay RA, and they chose to stay residential agricultural. Any questions?
Thank you. Any questions for staff? Okay, not seeing any. Thank you, Jessica. Okay, is the applicant here for this item tonight? Please come forward. You'll have 15 minutes to make your presentation. When your time is up, you'll hear a ding and your microphone will be muted. Following your presentation, if we have any questions, we'll ask them at that time.
I did not plan a 15-minute presentation, but yeah, this is my grandmother Vi Heron, and she's currently living in that southern. Oh, this is Charles Anthony Morales. Sorry about that. Yeah, my grandmother Vi Heron, she's currently living in that house to the south there, 920 South. And yeah, I'm just hoping we can get this zoned correctly so I can build my home hopefully here shortly. So that's about all I have.
Great, thank you. Any questions for the applicant? I have one minor, simple question. It looks like there's something built on that property at the moment.
Yeah, there's a barn that my grandpa used for years. So yeah, it'll have to come down. It's a matter of time before it comes down anyway. So
Right, so you're taking
anyways.
out the barn, putting a house on the property.
Correct. Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you. We'll now open the public comment portion of the meeting. Are there any neighborhood or district chairs present this evening for this item? Are you public or are you a neighborhood chair?
I am the owner of the property.
Okay.
I live at
Yeah.
920 West 1020 South.
Oh, sure. Come on up as part of the applicant.
I am the Grammy. Yeah, so this development there was Heron Haven, and it was developed years ago. And my husband, who is a farmer, he wanted to keep one lot. There were 13 lots. He wanted to keep one for his big garden. So we had it put on with ours for tax purposes because it was cheaper, of course. So now that Anthony, my grandson, would like to buy our last lot that used to be in Heron Haven, we have consented and he has purchased it. So I agree with it wonderfully. Now, the Tuyas that live just east of me in the property that probably won't have a zone change, I talked with them this afternoon as they were asking about it. And I told them what was going on. And they said, fine with us, because they don't plan to have cows or sheep or anything on theirs. And so it's okay with the Tuyas who own the lot just to the east of me. But we'll be delighted to have Anthony build his home there, because then we have a wonderful slave to mow the lawn. My husband died 2 years ago, so Anthony's been wonderful. Anyway, we're delighted he wants to buy it and he's bought it, and that he will build and live there close to me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
I do have a question. Are all the other properties in Heron Haven already R17? That's probably a question for the city.
There are 1.8.
Yes, so zoning directly to the north is R1.8, zoning to the west is R17. So it's both R1.8 and R1.7.
And so R17, those are the Heron Haven properties too.
I don't believe that
Those
those
are
to the
different.
west. Yeah,
Okay,
I think it's
that's
a
fine.
different
Just,
subdivision.
okay, thanks.
And just Jessica, while you're up, just to get this on the record.
Yeah.
The only reason why they need R17 star 1 instead of R1.8 is frontage, not necessarily lot size, right?
Correct. The square footage will be fine, but the lot width, it would be 79 feet instead of 80 feet. So that's why
Okay.
R17.
And so there's no other exceptions that have to be made for it.
No, rezoning to R17, no code exceptions have to be made. If they tried to rezone to R1.8, they would need a variance to get that 1 foot smaller lot width.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
The lot that needs the additional, or I guess smaller width is the south end of that
Yes.
piece. Okay.
Okay, thank you for real this time, I think. Okay, so now we'll go ahead and open for public comments. Once again, are there any neighborhood or district chairs present tonight? Okay, so we'll go ahead and open it to the general public. Each of you will have 2 minutes to comment, and you may make one comment. When your time is up, you'll hear a ding and your microphone will be muted, so please stay within the time frame. If you have any questions, we'll invite you forward at the end of public comments. Okay, not seeing anyone for this item, we'll close public comment and bring it back to the commission for discussion. Go ahead, Lisa.
So I had one thing I just wanted to say and see if you guys agree that we can maybe pass this along to the staff. This is, we've had several applications that we've been hearing lately that are asking for R1.7 zoning. And it's not because the lots are 7,000 square feet, it's because they don't have the frontage and the setback requirements. So maybe in our zoning code rewrite, we could address that, because that would help with a lot of the infill properties that we're trying, that are likely to be developed if they don't have to be rezoned in order to comply. I feel like if they're big enough and they can meet the setbacks, then the frontage maybe isn't that big of a deal. But that's, I don't know, is that worthy of a straw poll to pass along to staff if we feel that that's important, or is that just something to pass along?
That's sufficient. We understand what you're saying and we'll keep that in mind.
Okay,
Great.
all right. And then the other things I just wanted to say as part of our discussion on page 3, in the staff response at the top of the page, it says it meets the goal of having single family home developments, having a mix of density and infill. Those are 3 different goals that it meets. And it also matches the adjacent zoning, and it's not small lots. So I really have no problem with this. I think it meets the goals of and intents of the general plan and doesn't leave a big hole on the zone map. So I'm in support of this.
Great. Any other comments?
I I would agree, and I think we do have to be careful when we are making zone changes like this for infill, because we've also had the experience where somebody requests a zone change for infill, but it also has to have a variant or a variance or an exception made on the square footage. This doesn't have that, so I think that's a good leg to stand on. And also, yeah, so these are not small lots that are left. So I agree with you about maybe fixing the frontage issue, but this to me makes a lot of sense.
And not even a setback variance, which we often see with these,
Yeah.
right? Because they end up too close.
Wait, hold on. I don't think we permit things with exceptions. We try and either get them in
Change
the
the
right
zoning, yeah.
zone code and then grant
Right.
it or
Well,
deny it.
we haven't, but we've had a request, right? So
Yeah.
just because those requests will come more with these infill properties.
I do have a question. Ms. Kendall's comment made me think of this. If we recommend that the zone be changed to R1.7 and then somebody decides to come in and do more than 2 houses, is this zone change linked to that two lot subdivision? So that it can't, I don't think they intend to do a switcheroo, but just so that we understand the possibilities.
So the R1 section of code specifically says there can only be 1 dwelling unit per lot. They would have to rezone to something else to do a different subdivision.
Oh, there are actually 2 lots. We're not doing a subdivision, we're just rezoning.
So they're rezoning for the intent of splitting into 2 lots.
Right. And
Yeah.
so if they don't do 2 lots, it would have to be a whole new application that would be reviewed and the zone wouldn't be changed. Like
Yeah.
it's connected to the subdivision request.
Yeah, if they wanted to do a subdivision for something that wouldn't meet the R1.7 standards, they would have to come back and rezone.
Okay, are we ready for a motion? We'd like to make that motion.
I would be happy to do that.
Okay.
I move that we forward a positive recommendation to the municipal council for item 1. Charles Anthony Morales requests a zone map amendment from the residential agricultural and R1.8 zones to the R1.7 zone in order to subdivide an existing lot into 2 lots located at 920 West, 1020 South in the Sunset neighborhood.
Do we have a second for the motion?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, let's go to a vote.
Sorry, a question about the motion. How would you all see this differing from the, I guess, the flag lot one that we encountered last session, where they were also asking to subdivide and add an additional home, and we direct them instead towards an ADU?
I think the problem with that one was the condominium aspect of the shared driveway and whether that would be maintained well. and whether we needed to change it since the ADU was already allowed, but you're right. If they are asking for 2 lots without glitches in them,
Mhm.
we get 2 possible homeowners instead of just 1.
I think, yeah, and I think there's two differences. One is that it's bringing it to match the surrounding density, not making it more dense, and then that both of them have street access. Okay, we ready to vote?
Aye.
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 I,
Aye.
Aye.
And I'll vote aye, so item 1 passes unanimously. We'll move right into item 2. Rocky Chad Williams requests a zone map amendment from the A1.1 agricultural zone to the R1.7 one-family residential zone in order to subdivide the property into 4 lots located at 2850 West Center Street. Aaron Ardmore will present that for us.
Okay, thank you, Commission. So the request here, just to give you some context, it's right there on Center Street, highlighted on the map on the left. You can see the current zoning around it is there's still a lot of A1 agricultural zoning in the area, even though a lot of those lots probably don't meet those standards. But then the adjacent properties to the north, further west, and then to the east are R1 zones, different versions of R1 zones. The general plan map designates this entire area as residential. So in that way, this request is getting us closer to the goals of the general plan. The request is helping to pave the path for this subdivision. So if you notice on the last slide, there's a house sitting somewhat in the middle of this lot. The intent is to keep that home and to create 3 new building lots, 2 to the north, 1 to the south. All 3 of those would be accessed off of 2830 West rather than Center Street. Let's see, what else do I got? That's it. So a couple just key points to bring up. Again, it's that lot frontage thing, lot width thing that we talked about on the last item. So I think these could be R1.8 lots, if not for the lot widths provided. And those lot widths are restricted because they're trying to keep the existing home on lot 2. So that's why they went with the R1.7. In this case, you can look across the street. Even though that is zoned R1.8, you can see that those lot widths directly to the east are pretty narrow, even narrower than this proposed layout. So staff felt pretty comfortable with this zone change and the development it would bring, matching the area, the character of the area. You'll note in the staff report that the report was written before this went to a district meeting. Happy to report that at that district meeting, as I presented the item, took about 30 seconds. There's no questions, no concerns, no response at all, really. So to me, that's positive. When people are positive about requests, they're typically silent. So those are all the updates I have outside of what you have in the staff report. But if you have any questions, I'll try to answer those.
Any questions for Aaron? Lisa?
Commissioner Gonzalez alluded to this question. Can you tell us why it isn't better to rezone it to R1.8 just to keep the zoning more consistent and then ask for a variance on the frontage width instead of asking for zoning that doesn't actually by designation fit with the other designations?
Yeah, be happy to. So with there's 2 things. First, as development services, we don't like to recommend a zone that the development plan is not going to meet. So there's that. But secondary to that, or maybe on level with that, is the Board of Adjustment. When a variance comes before them, they're bound to certain criteria. And one of those criteria is a hardship that has to do with the property. In this case, any hardship is self-imposed because they're trying to subdivide the land. So they wouldn't, in my opinion, meet that criteria. So we wouldn't want to push them down that path and just have them be denied when they got to that point.
Do you have a problem with, I mean, obviously you don't, but can you see any problems with doing this because on paper it doesn't match what's around it. R1.7 in the middle of R1.10 and R1.8, these lots would be R1.10 lots by
Yeah, I mean,
area.
they're all over 10,000 square feet. Like I said, they're wider, larger than the properties that share the same street on 2830 West. All those properties to the east are smaller and more narrow. So I think that it fits in well. It's actually serves as a pretty good transition from the larger properties to the west to the properties to the east.
I just hate to not have it represent what's there. Like it's once again this, if we could just change the language of the code, then this wouldn't be a weird exception.
No,
It
I
would
took a note.
actually-
I'm definitely gonna look at that tomorrow when I get
Yeah.
back to our code rewrite.
Okay, I have one other question for staff. What's the significance of the landscaped area on the right-hand side of this map here that they promised to retain? The language kept saying that they promised to retain that area along 2830 West.
Oh, so the park strip area. So that's between the sidewalk and the street. So that has been installed and maintained well. It's something that the community enjoys. So I think it was important for them to be upfront with that and say that's going to stay there, other than the driveways that will cut through it.
Okay,
Ms. Jensen, I was the developer on that subdivision and was part of the negotiation that the HOA would maintain that park strip, and that's what they're referring to. We're now getting rid of that requirement so that each of these owners maintains the park strip.
okay. So I meant to drive over and look at it so I could see what was so phenomenal about it that it needed to be mentioned multiple times, but it's mostly just that it exists.
Yeah, I mean it exists. There's nice mature street trees there. There's nice, hardscape, rockscape there. So it's something that will continue to be maintained.
Thank you.
There's an HOA in that neighborhood?
There was when this was done back in the 90s, whether or not there is
Yeah.
still is today, I don't know.
Yeah, I was unaware of one. My quick question is about the access to the driveway of that house, because the garage is on the back side.
Yes,
Is
so
that
you'll
correct?
note that that 20-foot easement on the west side of this development as proposed would both access lot 2 because their garage is facing that direction already, and they wouldn't want to redo that whole building. And then that access also provides room to get to the property to the west. So this is all kind of family ownership. Those properties are all owned by the same family. You can see that accessory structure in the back with the green roof in this image. That access off of Center Street would be maintained to be able to access that, as well as the lot 2 home.
Okay, because the easement is kind of half on the neighboring
Yeah.
property and half on this property, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm just curious, the houses across the way, one of them is 8,000 square feet for the lot. The other two are 7,800 square feet. So, I mean, they're already kind of R1.7. How did this end up? How does this happen?
Well,
They're not meeting R1.8 either.
I would say we could ask the developer that did this in the 90s, but
That was the city's first open space subdivision under the open space subdivision when it was adopted in the 90s. And that allowed for that kind of flexibility.
Okay, great. I've always been curious about that since I live nearby there. Any other questions for staff? Bill?
Is lot 1 able to be subdivided further and meet R1.7 requirements?
no, they would have to have 14,000 square feet to further subdivide that, and they'd be just under that. So you're going to get kind of what you see.
Okay.
So there's no risk of it getting
Yeah, because it looks like
more.
the largest of the 4 lots, and it's got Center Street access, and yeah, just didn't know if that was.
Fair
Okay.
question.
Would lot 1's driveway go on Center Street or on the side street
It
there?
would go to the 2830 West.
Is that easement split? On the map, it looked like it was split so that the people on the east also, or on the west also have a part of that 20-foot easement, or is it the whole 20 feet on the property?
No, it is split as drawn in this image.
So does that mean that they also can use that driveway to get to the back sides of their property?
They could. There will be a lot of plat notes and direction that access to lots 1, 3, and 4 is only off 2830 West because Center Street is a collector road.
What about the ones on the west?
They will continue to use that as their main access. As
Oh,
they do
that is
today.
their main access.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's already how it exists. now.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, thank you,
Thank
Aaron. Is the applicant here this evening? Okay, not seeing the applicant, we'll go ahead and open the hearing for public comments. Are there any neighborhood district chairs or district chairs here this evening for this item? Okay, so we'll open it to the general public. Each of you will have 2 minutes to comment and you may make one comment. At the end of your time, you will hear a ding and the microphone will be muted. Please come forward if you'd like to comment on this item.
Brandon Rail. I live in one of the adjacent homes. I think rezoning the whole block would actually benefit the neighborhood more than just that one lot. Because none of them really meet the 1 acre requirement as noted in the zoning. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Okay, not seeing any, we'll go ahead and close the public comment portion and bring it back for discussion. And I'll just bring this right up. Thinking about Brandon's comment here. Bill, will you tell us the process if the rest of these lots wanted to join the zone change, or how would that work?
The property owners would be well suited to join together to file one rezone application. So that means only one fee would be paid for multiple parcels. They would just file that application with the Development Services Department. They can do that online. I'd be happy to give them a card at the end of this item so they can contact us. But staff would be happy to meet with them and talk to them about how to go about that.
Great, thank you. Any other comments from the commission here?
I feel like he was maybe saying as part of this application that should happen. Is it possible for them to amend an application that specifically requested just this parcel?
No, not if it's been, not
At this
after it's been
point?
advertised this way. We
Okay.
can't add to it.
Even if it was continued and came back, they would have to pay another fee if they wanted to include those other properties?
Well, I guess if we continued it and re-advertised it, we could possibly do that and not charge another fee. But that's quite a burden to put on this property owner to delay them in order to do that.
I sort of knew that. I
Yeah,
just
yeah.
wanted him to understand that it's not as easy as us deciding
Let's just
that
add
we
this
want to
it.
do it more
Yes.
because the other property owners haven't jumped in already.
Yeah.
Do we know why the applicant's not here? That always strikes me as odd.
No, they weren't at the district meeting either. So I can't tell you.
Were there people at the district meeting? You
There
said
were-
it was
There
done
are a
in
lot
30
of people at the
seconds.
district meeting.
And you
but
gave
not
the
for- not
details?
For this item.
Okay, but did you give the details
I
of
gave the
it?
details.
No
and
one had any
Nobody had anything to
problems?
say.
Okay.
So.
Any other comments? I mean, for me, this feels a lot like the other one. It's actually matching the density around it, right? It's got good street access. There's no weird shapes to the lots. The easement does, I mean, initially it can look a little odd, but it's actually how it works right now. That is their driveway on that easement. That's how they access their garage.
And that
So it's
back
actually
lot,
not changing.
that
anything.
back lot's gonna need it anyway. In order
Um,
to get to it.
Which one? Oh,
The one
on
with the green
left.
roof on the left is gonna need it eventually if it ever.
Yes, exactly.
subdivides,
So, yeah, it's just leaving that part as it is now and only changing the other things. So. Any other thoughts? Are we ready for a motion?
I kind of want to say, I don't want this to go through city council if we don't have an applicant there to represent themselves. I feel like that's weird.
So why don't we note for staff to
So.
pass along our recommendations? as they
Yeah.
come?
But if they
isn't-
didn't
isn't
come to the
that-
neighborhood meeting, they didn't come to
It's up to
this.
them.
Isn't that their prerogative though, if they decide to attend or not? Maybe maybe they have information that we don't know, that
Maybe they have great
That they have
confidence in
good-
city staff.
neighborhood consensus. I don't know. Like you and I wouldn't do that. You'd want to be present and make your voice and your record on your application, but
I mean, you're right. It's
that's
their
the risk they
prerogative.
run. That's the risk they run if city council has questions and they're not able to answer them, that they run the risk of the rezone application being denied.
Mhm.
I guess there's this part of me that's like, if the surrounding area is interested in jumping on the bandwagon and we don't have an applicant here, then in my mind, he's not in a hurry and maybe we could jump on the bandwagon and do it more neatly. That's definitely an assumption, but it just feels like maybe he would be open to that discussion. Rocky, I assume is the name.
Yeah, I wish he was here to answer that. Although, I mean, we have one neighbor that has stated there might be interest of the neighbors, but there's several others there that we don't know, right? And
And honestly, with
the
the
people in
property,
between might not like it. and so that
honestly,
might
with
mess
the
it up.
existing houses, I don't see the subdivision taking a much different turn. Like, kind of feels like everyone's gonna want their own piece to do what they want with. So I don't know if it would really change the sizes of the lots anyway. It's that dang frontage requirement that's
Yeah.
getting us. All right, those were all.
No. You ready for a motion? You want to make one for us?
I don't respond to threats. I'll make a.
There was no
I
threat.
did
It was
not
a
threaten.
request.
There was no threat, no ultimatum. It was a command.
Yeah, I'll make a motion. I'm joking, just. Anyways, yeah, I make a motion that we recommend approval to the municipal council for approval of item number 2, Rocky Chad Williams requests a zone map amendment from the A1.1 agricultural zone to the R1.7 one family residential zone in order to subdivide the property into 4 lots located at 2858 West Center Street, Fort Utah neighborhood.
Do we have a second?
I can second that.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, let's start voting.
Aye.
Nay.
Aye.
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 And I'll vote aye, so that passes 6-1.
If it's helpful to have a reason for the nay, it's mostly just if there was a possibility to do it in one big clump and there's not a developer here to answer my questions. So I'm not really morally opposed. I just don't like the small numbers in the zoning.
Okay, let's go ahead to item 3. Development Services requests a zone map amendment from the OSPR, which is Open Space Preservation and Recreation Zone, to the R120 one family residential zone. And R120 residential zone to the R16 PD zone in order to create a residential subdivision located approximately at 3200 West Bulldog Lane. And Bill Pepperoni will present that for us.
Members of the Planning Commission, I'm very excited to bring this project before you. We've been working on it for quite a while. This is a partnership between Provo City and Nilsson Homes to develop property that the city owns for a combination of workforce housing and market rate housing. We started the annexation process in November of 2024 when the annexation notices went out to property owners. We began getting phone calls from the residents to the east, and we began talking to them about what the plans were for this development. From the very, very early stages, it was conceived as a combination of single-family homes that would be in those 2 markets or price points that I just described. Before I get into the details of the development itself, I would like to address some of the concerns that have been forwarded to the Planning Commission in the last few days, because I think addressing those will give some important background and context. So one of the concerns raised is that should this be continued because there's not a neighborhood plan? In fact, the suggestion is made that it should. I'm a very big advocate of the city's neighborhood plans. They have served us very well, but we've only got neighborhood plans done for about half of the city. I think it would be very problematic to start delaying projects or denying them until we get neighborhood plans done for every area of the city. Additionally, if We just adopted a new general plan a few years ago, and that was a complete rewrite, a completely new general plan. It wasn't an update of the old 2010 plan. That plan included thought and consideration of the west side. The west side was not ignored in any way or shape. If the general plan was 30 years old, if this area of the city hadn't been looked at or considered for 30 years, I would say there may be some validity to that idea of let's postpone this and think about it. But that's just not the situation we are in. The general plan shows this as residential development, and that's what we're following. Other concerns that have been raised, like local needs are being overlooked, lost opportunities for essential services, commitments to the west side. Many of these points all have to do with west side retail amenities and specifically a west side grocery store. So let me just take a minute. I could spend 20 minutes, but I'll take a minute just talking about the efforts we've gone through for west side grocery store. When Mayor Kafusi came into office, she made it very clear that that was a mandate for the staff to pursue, a west side store. And that was a mandate from the mayor because that's what she heard when she was campaigning. Economic development staff and planning staff got together and identified 3 areas that we thought were most prime or ripe for commercial development, had the greatest commercial potential. The first one was Center Street in Geneva, and that was #1 by a long ways. The second one was Lakeview Parkway and the I-15. And the third one was Lakeview Parkway and 2000 North. Because Geneva and Center was #1, we went about working on that very hard. That property was rezoned for commercial in 1999. In 2021, we finally got Smith's back to the table with us to discuss a store there. And we worked very hard for 2 years on trying to get a store there. We generated a new concept plan. We expressed willingness to adjust the property line between an undersized city park and their land just to help make their store work. We did everything we could think of to encourage a store to go there. Ultimately, after 2 years of work and negotiation, the Kroger Corporation said, we've decided finally we are not going to put a store there. We're never going to put a store there. That's our final answer. And they evidenced that by putting their property up for sale. Kroger only owned about half of what you need for the grocery store. The Cox family owned the other half. Right on the heels of that opportunity getting by us, representatives of Walmart started talking to us about our site #2, Lakeview Parkway and the I-15. You're very familiar with that. You have now approved the Walmart project plan, and that project is moving forward. Site #3 that I told you we talked about was this area, 2000 North and Lakeview Parkway. So some reasons the staff thought this was a good piece for commercial development was that Lakeview Parkway is an arterial class road. Geneva Road, which is right there, is an arterial class road. 2000 North is an arterial class road. While we have hundreds of feet of frontage on this arterial, we're only 1/3 of a mile from that arterial. Ivory Homes went through a remaster planning process, a new master planning process for all of Broadview Shores a few years ago. And at that time, we knew that the traffic projections were that Lakeview Parkway would eventually carry more traffic than Geneva Road. So we moved the commercial node during that updating of their commercial plan, of their subdivision plan, their master plan. We moved that node from Geneva over to Lakeview Parkway. This parcel is just over half a mile from the high school site. I recently reached out to Ivory Homes and asked them if they've had commercial interest in this yet. They said no one has contacted them yet, but they would be interested in developing it commercially as soon as they have interest there. The project itself that we're talking about is what's shown on your map. After we finished the annexation process, we then had to go through an RFP process to identify a developer builder partner. The city put out an RFP and we had 3 respondents. 2 respondents proposed Either all townhomes were primarily townhomes. One Nielsen home is proposed single-family detached, which was what we had envisioned in the first place. But that's not the only reason why we chose Nielsen Homes. Nielsen Homes is very experienced at doing this exact thing on a much larger scale. Large master plan communities with a significant portion that's dedicated to workforce housing or moderately income priced housing and market rate homes. Okay. Some things that I really like about the plan we're bringing forward is that this area down here that's in green, those are wetlands. So as a planner, I'd much rather design around natural features than try to engineer solutions and build on top of them. Fortunately, Nielsen Homes sees things the same way. Let's leave that area open. Let's not try to mitigate off-site or do any of those tricks. Let's just leave that open. When this was annexed, it was annexed as the open space preservation zone because that's what all property is annexed in as in Provo. That's a general plan policy. Every annexation comes in as the OSPR. And then when there's a development plan, you go back through a rezone process when you have that development plan. So although this was given open space zoning initially, it was never intended to be open space in perpetuity. That was a holding zone until something else was proposed. Another thing I really like about this subdivision plan is that the workforce housing units and the market units are mixed into the same project. We don't have it segregated by area. They're mixed together. I think that's helpful and valuable. At the neighborhood meeting, somebody suggested, well, why don't you just do the whole thing in workforce housing? There's a huge need for it. You've got a waiting list of employees for those units. There's a couple reasons why we're not proposing that. One is, as a planner and a designer, if we have different price points for homes in the same subdivision, you get a wider variety of home plans and designs and facades, and it just looks more custom built. Also, from Nielsen Homes' point of view, it's the market rate homes that help pay for the workforce housing homes. You don't make money off the workforce housing homes. The other ones help pay for that. And so it's an economic tool to make this all work. And Matt Meyer with Nielsen Homes can go into that in more detail if you would like him to. He has some things he wants to share with you. So we are proposing 34 market rate homes, 34 workforce housing homes. Just to be clear, workforce housing is defined actually the same way moderate income housing is defined by HUD. And that is housing that's income restricted to those who earn between 80 and 120% of the area median income. They're income restricted. For a family of two, married couple, they have to earn between $76,000 and $114,000 a year. For a family of five, 2 parents and 3 kids, they have to earn between $102,550 and $153,825. Those are the income limits. Those income limits vary based on how many people live in the home. Okay. The reason or the method that we keep the workforce housing is the land is in the ownership of the Utah County Land Trust. The house itself, the sticks and bricks, is owned by the buyer. By having the land in the land trust manages all the subsequent sales, and the land trust can make sure that it stays in a workforce housing price range. That's the value of the land trust role in all this. And that's the mechanism that keeps it working. That's all I have in terms of presentation. Matt has got some things he would like to show on behalf of Nielsen Homes. Is that all right?
Yeah, should we do that now or should we ask questions first?
That's fine.
Let's ask questions of staff and then we'll turn it over to the applicant. Yeah.
I wonder if people are, how restrictive is it for remodels or when people live there? How much can they do the exterior of their house and the interior?
They own the house. They can do whatever they would like.
Okay, so there's no restrictive covenants in the neighborhood for what color they paint their door, or you know what I'm getting at there?
Not
No.
that I'm aware of. Matt, do you typically put restrictions like that on? Go on.
No, so Matt Meyer with Nielsen Homes. they can't quite do anything they want because they're still subject to the same building envelope and they're still subject to the same stipulations that we would be when we originally built the home. And all these homes are completely so they're turnkey homes, right? So they're completely done, and the potential building owners don't make decisions as to what the homes and the doors and so forth will look like. But as to remodels, I guess they could do whatever they want within the regular bounds of the subdivision.
Any other questions for staff? Lisa?
You explained the land trust, but how do you restrict buyers to help the demographic that you're targeting? Is that just part of the Utah County Land Trust? They will only, it's that income limits that make sure. So it's not just going to be police officers and firefighters, anyone from anywhere. They don't even have to be Provo residents or Provo workforce.
We're talking through all of those details right now. We want these targeted for Provo City employees because the city's making a land donation on behalf and to the benefit of city employees. We want to get especially our first responders back inside the city and not living in other far-flung communities. But at the same time, if we're on the initial sales, I'm sure will go to the city employees. Subsequent sales, personally, I would rather have it sell to someone qualifying who's not a city employee than for that have to sit vacant because we're waiting for a city employee to come along. So we're working through those kinds of details right now because there's a lot of things to try to balance. We don't want homes just sitting vacant.
Are there legal logistics to saying the only people that can buy these houses are our city employees? Or can you just say we're opening it up first to these people and then anyone else can come along? How do you do that without having exclusionary practices that maybe I don't know what that is in real estate if that happens.
Again, Matt's more experienced in the actual sales of the product, so I'll let him answer that
Okay.
when he comes up.
I have a question. Is the UTA Uber program available in this area? Or is that only on the south side of of Center Street? Where you can call the rideshare program?
I really don't know.
You don't know that one?
UTA on demand.
UTA
Yeah,
on demand?
I believe it is available everywhere out there.
Okay, it is.
Yeah.
Because it said that it's the closest UTA route is far away, but if they have the on-demand option, it actually connects them really easily. So.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I have a couple questions. It comes out to about 6 units per acre.
Just under, yeah.
Just under that. Sewer is always a concern out there. Is that going to be an issue in this particular spot, or how does that work?
It's not, because you know that you're very familiar with all the sewer limitations we've talked about. And the reason it's not is because I've got almost 400 units, dwelling units on a land bank that were units we were expecting to be built on the west side that aren't going to be built because they got rezoned to commercial or they got rezoned to industrial. So as long as we don't go over that land bank, then we have the sewer capacity.
So you're basically pulling out of that land bank.
That's correct.
Excellent. I was going to ask about wetlands, but you already answered that really well. I saw the square footage on the lots, but maybe I missed it, but I didn't see any square footages on the homes. What size homes are these?
I'll let Matt answer that.
Okay.
One more question, neighborhood meeting. What was the response at the neighborhood meeting on the 20th?
So all the concerns that you have been receiving in the mail, those were concerns raised at the neighborhood meeting.
Okay.
Great. Thank you. Any other questions for Bill? Okay. Thank you very much. We'll go ahead and invite the applicant forward.
You can play that.
Okay. So we'll give you 15 minutes for your presentation, then we'll ask
You want
questions
to
at
start
the
the
end.
video? So hit next. It should start. Okay.
Again, thank you for that. Matt Meyer, I'm an engineer with Nelson Homes, and I've been primarily the contact working with Bill on throughout the RFP process and then throughout the planning process that we've done so far. I am the father to 4 boys that are in their 20s, and I read a statistic the other day that 30-year-old boys, 15% of them are both married and homeowners. And there isn't much I can do about the married part, but I'm really trying hard to be able to get those 4 boys and so many like them into a home. And Nielsen Homes is uniquely qualified and has shown a lot of progress toward meeting that goal to be able to get people into first homes at a price that they can afford for the incomes that they're making, as in their 20s and 30s, and also for working toward creating homes and communities that can be afforded on a single income. So that's our goal. We heard about the RFP and responded to it, and we're very, very excited and honored to be working with Provo City on this project. Let's see, a quick review of our portion of the community meeting. We talked a lot about the construction of, there are some homes to the east of us that are on what are called permanent wood foundations, which means that instead of having a concrete foundation on which the house sits, they had something that they were doing in the mid 90s that was supposed to be an alternative to that. And they've had some bad luck with them, and they're susceptible to vibration. And in fact, some of our neighbors there were saying that the construction of the high school caused their houses to shake and maybe could have caused some damage to the homes. So we took a hard look at that. Residential construction is certainly a lot different than high school construction. We don't have any drilled piers like the high school had. We don't have any of the excessive shaking and really heavy equipment that is necessary to build a high school. But we wanted to, first of all, we made some contact with some of the neighbors, and we want to set up a meeting pre-construction. We're obviously not close to that now. We don't have contractors to talk to, or we know we need to get through the zoning process and then get into the hard engineering design. So, but we'll have pre-construction meetings with the neighbors, and we will have zones of the road construction where we will limit the contractors to using non-vibratory compaction on the roads. It's harder, it takes longer, but it's a way to protect the neighbors from that vibration damage that could come. The other thing, we talked a little bit about what other large,
I think it was that.
I think that was about it. Well, obviously, if I missed any, we'll have some comments. So, is there anything that I can?
Price point, you asked a question about, or size of company.
The square footage of the homes.
So the workforce homes are smaller than the market rate homes. We're looking at a range. The smallest workforce home will be somewhere in the 1,200 square feet. The largest of the market rate homes could be 1,600 square feet.
Great, thank you. Any other questions for the applicant?
I wondered if you could help me understand the demographics. How do you attract the market that you want, and like how does the marketing process go so that we know that the people that this idea came to help actually get helped?
Okay, a lot of that was done, before we even came in with Provo City. But I'm going to turn the time over to my colleague Lacey Richards, who worked on a very similar project that we did in Weber County, where we qualified individuals and use that as part of the process for part of the subdivision, just like we're doing here.
Thank you, Matt. Chair and Commission, thank you. Lacey Richards with Nielsen Homes. We did do a similar project of a much larger scale in Weber County. That one was targeted for the priority sales to not only first responders, but also first-time homebuyers and teachers and active duty military members. Our experience with that one was that we had a qualified waiting list that was much longer than any of the available homes. So it didn't require very much marketing, because when you have homes that are available, that are beautiful, high quality, and they're available on a priority basis to these categories of employees, they sell themselves.
Are there
basically.
any legal barriers to saying we only want Provo first responders to be at the top of the list? Like, that's what my question was. How do you really target the
You're
people
talking
that
about
you're?
fair housing practices?
Yeah, I don't know what the legal restrictions are on saying we want these people, but not these people to be at the top of the list.
Sure. Yeah, that's something that we vetted carefully with attorneys. The municipality we were working with did as well. We did not have any problems identifying those categories, one of which was the first responders. They didn't identify any problems with that process.
And you can open it for them first
That's
before
what
other people have an opportunity.
Yes, that's what we did on our other project, and we were advised that that was just fine.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
How do we make sure these don't become rentals?
That's a great question. So on our previous project and on this project as well, as Provo has requested, we record a deed restriction that requires owner occupancy. So if you live in the home, you need to be the owner of the home.
And then when it's sold, then what?
That deed restriction follows it. So you
Okay.
need to sell it to someone else who is willing to meet that same requirement.
Great. Any other questions?
Follow up on that question. Is that for all of the lots or just for the workforce housing lots that their deed restriction applies?
For the way we did it on our other community was that it was the workforce housing units.
How are you enforcing the income requirements exactly? So is the
That's
value of the
something-
home has to be something that someone that makes $110,000 a year.
Right. Yeah, as Mr.
qualify.
Pepperoni mentioned, it varies based on family size, but that's something that the land trust, it's my understanding they will be administering that. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. So they will be qualifying the buyers and make sure that they actually meet the requirements.
So for those people that are buying into this, they may not be able to access the same level of equity that maybe they could in a market rate home.
That's correct.
Because
Yes,
they could only turn around and sell it for, however much inflation has affected wages.
Yeah, generally there's a cap on appreciation there that preserves that affordability for your future workforce as well.
Thank you.
Right.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm with home equities and stuff like, how does it run with the the land and who carries that with a trust owning the land and then the homeowner owning sticks and bricks?
I'm not sure I understand. You mean as far as the mortgage goes?
Right.
So the land trust is said that they will handle all of that and help guide the buyers through the process. They have a lot of experience with this system where the underlying land is owned by a trust and the home itself is sold, and they will administer all of that. They have lenders who are very experienced working in that space, who are used to it, and they've indicated it shouldn't be a problem at all.
Is the land trust basically allowing you to remove the land portion of the cost out of the equation, or
Yes.
are the market rates still heavily subsidizing?
Both are happening. As you probably know, a lot of the hidden cost of housing is the infrastructure. It's all the not exciting stuff that happens before you start pounding the first nail. So when you're doing those market rate lots, it helps get the infrastructure in that all the lots need. But yes, removing the land cost by having the land trust retain that is going to help as well. It's kind of a shotgun approach to getting these as accessible as possible for Provo families.
Right. And then I think Chairman Hill earlier asked about price points for the different housing. And we addressed that the income levels would range from 70 to 110 or 115 depending on family size. But back to, I want to make sure that gets answered with the price points that the people we intend to help will actually be able to afford it.
Right, yeah. So a general formula, and again, the land trust is going to administer this part of the program, and Bill, jump in if I'm missing anything, but general formula, you can allocate about 1/3 of your income to housing costs. So again, it's going to depend on family size, things like that. We estimate that these homes should be coming in under 500.
Would certain families then be restricted to certain homes based on family size? Or if my kids are willing to double up in a bedroom, can I get into a smaller one?
That's a great question for Bill. As the builder, we're just happy to build you some beautiful homes, and you guys can figure out which families to get into which ones.
It sounds like I'm not going to answer for you, Bill, but if they're family, if they're blood related, they could just have it however.
Well, I'm saying because the income
Is that what you
restriction is
mean?
based on family size, right? So if I have a family of 7, but we're okay with moving into a 3-bedroom,
Yes.
but the income is tied to the
Oh,
house and,
but
right?
your income is higher than it should be for that size house. Is that what you're saying?
Right, or yeah, so or
So you
maybe
can
my
also
income's
afford
not
a
higher,
bigger
but
home.
we're willing to move into a smaller home, or yeah, I guess I'm seeing a potential mismatch. Or is it like, okay, a family of 4 moved out, so family of 4 has to move in?
That's not how we anticipate it working. I don't want to speak for the city, but in general, no, as long as the way that the land trust has explained it to us is if you meet the income qualifications and you meet the priority category, on the sale, that they will qualify the buyers and handle all of that. But I haven't heard anything that says your kids can't share bedrooms. It's character building for me. It can be character building for them too.
But yeah, I just didn't want to see a family try to move out and be like, okay, well, there's no one on the list that meets
Right.
this requirement because it has to be, you know.
Yeah, and that's been our input as well. We want to make sure that these homes don't sit there vacant because they have a very important purpose in your city.
To the question about square footage, Matt said that the workforce housing would probably start at around 1,100 or 1,200 square feet. I would love to see if there's a market for something that's more like 900 square feet, 2-bedroom, to really get the price point even lower. And I would like to survey the city employees who have expressed interest to see if there's any market there. I would like to see that tried somewhere in Provo.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Matt, anything to add?
No.
Good. Okay. Let's go ahead to the public comment portion of the meeting then. First, do we have any neighborhood or district chairs here for this item? Okay, not seeing any, we'll go ahead and open it to the general public. Each of you will have 2 minutes to make a comment. Please come forward at this time if you'd like to comment on this issue. I will do that, yes. Sorry, just before you start, I do need to acknowledge that we've received several letters on
They were mine.
this item. from Janice Nichols, Chantel Bjorn, David Gale, Chantel Atkin. And Chantel Atkin also attached 2 anonymous letters to hers as well. So just so that you know, we have read those letters and are familiar with the concerns in them. Go ahead. Thank you.
Perfect. I'm Chantel Atkin. I'm here representing my neighborhood. We live adjacent to the subdivision, and I appreciate that you guys read the letters. Thank you. Some of the big concerns why we have this is when Provo High was constructed, and Matt has actually been very kind and helpful in helping me understand that is going to be different. But our foundations are very fragile in this area. They should have never been built in high water tables. And so being able to know for sure, we've talked to city council members, none of them will take this. They don't care. So if it goes to city council, then this can be pushed forward, and we have no guarantee that anybody is going to take responsibility if something happens. They can say it, but we don't have it in writing. There's been no plan put in place. When things happened with Provo High, they said you have no proof because we didn't wander around taking pictures of our walls and our floors. But many of us got cracks through our floors, our walls, ceilings, patios, windows were broken. The city wasn't responsible, the school district wasn't responsible, and the construction company wasn't responsible. So until we have that in place, I am asking you to please do not build these homes at the expense of our homes, because I can't afford to fix my home. I've already had to fix some of it myself, and some of it I've just had to push to the side. So until they know how it's going to actually affect our home, and we have guarantees that we're going to have support for that, I'm asking that doesn't pass, because if it goes to city council, we have no way of actually getting someone to give us proof that we're going to receive that help. It's all lip service at this point, right? So thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments on this item?
My name is John Lyons. I live in the Lakeview North neighborhood, and I 100% support this proposal. I think it's a wonderful idea. I think it's something that Provo needs. Also, a father with many children, and having a place that my kids can buy a home to live in near us would be a wonderful opportunity.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Melanie Davies, and I am also, I live next door to Chantel, and so we have a lot of the same concerns. And another one of the concerns that we have is the traffic in the schools. There are several crosswalks right along Lakeshore Drive, and that our kids cross to go to school. And we have asked for crossing guards, and we have asked for help, and we see a lot of really close calls there, and it is very scary. And so it's a little scary that we're adding all these homes. On top of that, you probably are well aware of there are many, many other homes being added in Provo at this time as well that will add to this problem. So, and I understand that, I know we have plans to expand the road and we have plans to do all these things, but these homes are coming right now. We're making the problem worse right now before we take care of the infrastructure and the things that are going to cause problems. So I would just ask that we take that into consideration, and that we look at just the roads and the safety and the schools, and make sure that the schools can handle the added, all the added people in Provo. Yeah, and then I would also just like to say, I have the utmost respect for all of our first responders. I think that if they are not getting paid enough to own a home, I don't know why we're not looking at paying them more rather than getting them into a home where they're going to struggle to build equity, like was mentioned earlier. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for letting me speak. My name is Janice Knuckles. I live on 820, and I'm really puzzled by all of this. It's all happened so quickly. I was reading that this land was annexed to Provo sometime in January of this year. I received a letter, my husband and I received a letter on August 8th, telling us that we may be asked to sign a petition in support of or not in support of this development. We've been talking to the county surveyor, who says there actually is no petition that it's, and now we're finding out that it's already been annexed. So we're very, very puzzled by this whole process. We feel as if that we've got a ticket for a train at a certain time and the train left the station a long time ago. Our perspective is that, first of all, in response to some of the comments that were made in the item 3 handout that we received from Rachel Breen, we don't see this land as vacant. I think my perspective on this land is very different. The land that is being developed is all part of a wetlands complex. I don't see how they can bifurcate just a tiny little green space as wetlands and the rest of the area as not wetlands. Who did this wetlands designation? Who labeled it? What group of people who know things about wetlands have actually been called and asked to define these areas in terms of wetlands or non-wetlands? This land is not vacant. We know, we live our backyard. We see a lot of what goes on here. We see sandhill cranes doing courting dances. We see foxes. We see coyotes. We've even seen tortoises. We've seen deer. This is not vacant land. And we see birds everywhere. We really feel that this is all happening so fast. We don't feel that the development plan for this site respects designated wetlands as open space. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
My name is Jonathan Stringham. I'm actually a police officer here for Provo. I've been here for about 3 years. I can say me and my wife have been looking for houses for over the course of probably a year and a half, and this is probably the first type of situation that's popped up that's even a possibility for us to even look into. I don't know about zoning and everything. All I can say is you guys were wondering about marketing. How are we going to get the word out for people? At least for Provo police officers, I can be a personal witness to you guys that there are officers who are interested in this program, who are trying to get into a home for a first time with families, and are just grateful for you guys to be looking into this and making it a possibility for us to be homeowners. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Donna Smith, and I'm neighbors with the others who've spoken from the outside of the room. And for me, the whole idea of calling this a good thing for the first responders, this is a tiny acreage. We're talking 12 acres, 68 homes. That is squeezing way too many people into that place. And it is, as she has just said, part of a floodplain. Do we call this an honor to our first responders? Why didn't we look into the Lakeview and Center Street, 2 corners there? Now they're putting in warehouses on a perfect lot that would have been great for this. It would have been bigger, I think, and it would have been flat and not part of the floodplain. So to me, this is just kind of despicable for our wonderful first responders. There's got to be a better location, and to me, it's just way too small. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi there, I'm Scott Williams. I'm approaching 2 years with Provo as a police officer. I think that this would be an excellent proposal. In response to a few of the criticisms that have been levied, I think that this is a great proposal. I recognize that my wage, and I believe it is a fair wage in today's economy, doesn't buy a house. And as far as I would certainly love if I was being gifted with the opportunity to buy a much larger house, but we can only control prices so much. And I don't think that anything above the sizes that have been levied are really within the question in terms of the income that me and people who do what I do for a living have available. In terms of the land itself, I love wildlife. I consider myself a good steward of the wilderness, you could say. But everything in Provo at one point or another was inhabited by wildlife. And I don't think that that can be held above the priority of people living in houses. Houses are extraordinarily important. Susie Orman, a very renowned financial analyst, once said that the magic of compound interest, tax savings, and property appreciation make home ownership the cornerstone of the American dream. I just think that that's a dream that people who do what I do for a living should be able to pursue. And we don't have the luxury of working in the private sector, where when you master your craft, you enjoy the opportunity to market yourself and either demand more from your employer, pursue another employer, or ultimately start your own business and let the market decide your wages. I will make what a 2-year officer makes, regardless of the attention that I give to mastering my craft. Lastly, in response to the concerns regarding traffic and the safety of the children in the neighborhoods nearby, in my experience, an increased police presence is an excellent deterrent to poor driving. So with that, I just thank you for entertaining this opportunity for people who do what I do for a living.
Thank you.
So my concern is.
I'm sorry, can you state your name and
Oh,
city of
I'm
residence?
Pam Peterson. I live at the end in the cul-de-sac. Right. Okay, I'm Pam Peterson. I live in the 820 cul-de-sac. And I was just informed, we were just informed that, asked if we wanted to be a member of the, Provo city limits, which I always thought we were. But my concern is this: they did all of this stuff to get, the wetland easement and figuring all that out to get the parkway. And now they're going to do this, which honestly, you guys gave some great answers and allayed some of my concerns. And I understand I have sons who can't afford to buy a house either. So I do understand that. My concern is that this is the proverbial camel with his nose in the tent door, that it's just going to progress down until all of those lands are taken. Because they've already done it with the highway. Now they're doing it with this. And so I just think it's going to progress till there's nothing there. And so I'm just kind of concerned about that. So, that's just what I wanted to say.
Thank you.
Hi, Eric Jensen. I'm an officer with Provo Police. My family and I moved down here about 4 years ago. And if we had come across a program like this, it's something that we would have jumped on. And we may not qualify for this program necessarily, but speaking with several other officers that possibly would qualify, I can say that there are many within our department that would jump on this opportunity, that have been looking for homes and have been discouraged at the cost of homes and have just been held to renting possibly smaller homes than what is able to fit their families. So a program like this is something that would greatly benefit us, and I think you'd find that a lot of officers would take advantage of it and be extremely grateful to the community that they would be willing to do this for us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Before I start, could you pull that geographic map up again for me of the actual? Yeah, that one there. But is there a larger one that shows that in relation to the property, the annex property, the SS Minnow that's bordered, that's south of that, that's proposed to be annexed? That's property between Bulldog Lane, Provo High School, and Provo River. That's, yeah, all that property. Okay, thank you very much for pulling that up.
Let's get your name.
Yeah, make sure to state your name.
Speak right in the microphone, and if
Oh.
you need to point at the map, you can press that button and you can point at the map. If that's helpful.
Look at the map with the push the button.
If you need to.
My name is Stephen B. Zuckerman, and I'm a resident of 820 North cul-de-sac that borders the this wetlands area right here in this, about in this center. So, okay, so we started, and in all due respect to our public servants and everything, I think this is a very good concept for them, and to get them behind it is very important, I think. If you want to move something like this along, I do believe there's lots of other areas where it might serve the community at large better than to go into these wetlands. But I wanted to just quickly address the Utah Senate Bill 270. The Utah Lake Study Amendment was signed into law by Governor Spencer Cox on March 18th, 2024. And $1.5 million was appropriated to provide funding for a study of Utah Lake, specifically exploring how to enhance its benefits and improve the water supply. The study goals were to look at the water quality and the conservation of water resources. There's related legislation. Senate Bill 270 was passed in conjunction with Senate Bill 242. With one-time appropriation from the general fund of this 1.5 million, section 65A-10-5 is related to a Utah Lake study, and that was repealed to go out to, the studies repealed to go out to July 1st, 2027. So there's a lot of more time to actually study this land. This is the last remaining wetlands across from, we have the Utah Provo Delta here, we have the Utah Lake Marina here, we have the Provo River Trail here, and then the high school up here. And this is the last critical remaining wetlands. And I know I'm running out of time. So I wanted to make reference to House Bill 166 in 2020.
I'm sorry, that's all the time that you have. Thank you. I'm sorry, we need to stick to the time limits. Thank you.
Hello, my name is David Davies. I live on 3080 West, which is the road directly adjacent to the development. The primary, all respect to the officers, affordable housing would be great for them. We love our officers, mostly concerned about my home and living behind there for the last 6 years. My home is not to grade with the high school. The proposed development, I don't know if you could show the proposed development on the map, but it shows a road going right behind, adjacent to my current backyard. I just have questions about how is drainage going to be handled if I'm 5-6 feet below the grade at the current road that runs next to the high school. How is this, is the whole subdivision going to be raised up? I don't have any information on how any of that's going to be handled, and I think I have a right to be concerned about how it might affect my property, especially in the sense that we're not putting in a residential home behind my property. We're proposing to put a road right against my current backyard. I know they mentioned that a fence would go in, and Matt's been very cordial and great to work with, and I can tell also that Mr. Pepperoni has put in a lot of work, and I think that it looks like a well-constructed project, but I don't know enough about it to be comfortable with the fact that it's going in right on my property line. And I don't know how it's going to be graded. I don't know what kind of fence is going to go in my yard. And also, to be honest, in being here tonight, I'm a little bit disappointed that we're doing all of this for them, and we're putting in 1,200 square foot houses for just under $500,000. I think for someone who's making for them, it should be more affordable. I think if we can't make the numbers work within this property, and that's probably why all those homes are in there and it's so crowded, because we're trying to make the numbers work to make this work. And it seems like we're not really achieving the goal. Like if we're going to have subsidized housing, it should be really affordable. And for a 1,200 square foot home in Provo for $500,000 is not that much below market. Yeah, I think it should be better. Thanks.
Thank you. David Day, will you raise your hand?
What?
No, David Day in the back. He's this. Oh, yeah. So David Davies, I suggest you talk to David Day. He's a city engineer and he might be able to answer some of your questions for you. So, and you can talk about double D names while you're doing it. Okay, please come forward.
Good evening. My name's Jeremy Hedman. I'm the fire chief here in Provo. I can speak to the necessity and the number. I can't give you an exact number, but there's a number of firefighters that would qualify and are interested in this project. It's a huge benefit for Provo City firefighters and police officers to have this kind of project in the city. Right now, we have about 12% of our firefighters. We have 93 firefighters. About 12% of those live in the city. Most of them have to live outside of Provo City, some outside of Utah County. So it's a benefit to me as a fire chief as well, because it's actually a marketing tool for us to say that, look at what Provo City can do for our employees. So there's a lot of benefits. Bunch of our firefighters were not able to come tonight to speak to this, but there are plenty that would be standing in line to apply for the project. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Gage Eccles. I'm a Provo City firefighter as well as president of the Professional Firefighters of Provo. Obviously, through everyone that has been speaking, the citizens of Provo, I appreciate the fact that they do see the need for having more police and fire in the city of Provo, and they've been very well represented in saying that. My job is as a public serviceman is to the public of Provo City. And what's lost on a lot of people is the fact that anytime there's more police and fire inside of your city, you automatically become safer. Throwing out some statistics, someone who goes into sudden cardiac arrest, for every minute that they are down, your chance of survival goes down by 10%. The majority of our calls takes approximately 3 to 4 minutes to respond to those. So that automatically drops you down to 30 to 40%. Just having these police officers and firefighters inside this room, you guys are now at a higher survival rate if something were to happen. And that goes across as far as the citizens of Provo. Having them more around you in the grocery stores, walking my children to school. If something were to happen at a crosswalk, we're already there. And so the benefit, may be lost on some, but having us there within the community greatly improves the safety of Provo citizens, and which is our top priority. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments tonight? Okay, not seeing any, we'll go ahead and close the public portion, bring it back to the commission for discussion.
I have quite a few questions. If the income of a homeowner in one of these workforce housing units that's proposed, if their income increases over time and because they got a raise or they have a second job, do they become ineligible? They
No,
don't.
it's only the initial purchase.
Okay. Do you think, well, first this, would a project like this ever happen without city initiation?
I don't see how it would. In this case, the city is willing to contribute the land to make this work. Fortunately, when we bought the right of way for Lakeview Parkway, this came with right of way we bought. So our basis is very low. So it's an easy give for the city to contribute. But even with the land being contributed, the cost of infrastructure now and sticks and bricks, those are so expensive. It's been discouragingly difficult to get this to work. So without city participation, I don't see how things like this work. Matt, if you see it differently, please say so.
Ditto to what Bill said. We have experience doing this, but with the, Provo is just a different city. There's just so little land to be developed, and the land that is available is so expensive that without city participation, no, this couldn't happen.
I wonder if the city continuously spearheading these projects, this is the second one we've seen recently, inadvertently sends a message to the community that we're doing something sneaky when in fact it's just the only way it can get done. And
other communities like Park City and Moab are experienced at this. This is new for Provo.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to be part of it. But other cities that have even worse housing crises than us have already been doing this.
That's awesome. My initial reaction was that I like that the city's collaborating on projects like this because I feel like it sets the example for how it could be done well. We've talked a lot about some mixed use concepts and or mixed housing types, and I like that this does that very beautifully. Two things I wanted to have you answer.
Can I ask one question that goes along with that?
Yeah.
Before, Bill, is there a better location? Can the city find land somewhere else to do this? That's been brought up multiple times. Can you address that?
Yeah, it's just very hard for us to find the land. There's not a whole lot that we own. Some of the parcels that they referred to would have been great, I agree. But the land price was just too high that the city never would have owned it in the first place. And you can't buy it and contribute it at those prices.
And one of the parcels that was mentioned was actually a residential zone that was rezoned because it was under the airport flight path. So it wasn't actually a dreamy place to build a house.
And I will say one of the city councilors asked us during that conversation to specifically look at the possibility of workforce housing there. And so it was considered.
Okay. The two things I wanted to have you answer, anyone from the city, are there studies that need to be finished before we build on the wetlands? And then
Yeah, let me take that. So
also tell us about what legal official wetland designation we're working off of so that people can feel comfortable or not comfortable about what happened.
So what does it mean to be delineated wetlands?
Sure, thank you. To go back to your previous point, we are working with two other cities on similar projects. So this is kind of catching because it's starting to be the only alternative to be able to, get housing at an affordable point. If you look on the graphic that's shown on the screen, you see there's a darker green outline. There's darker green and lighter green. Darker green, those represent the delineated wetlands by the Army Corps of Engineers. A study has been done, and you see that we don't touch those wetlands with any of the subdivision improvements. In fact, we can't do anything with those wetlands throughout construction, except we are putting in a small trail, and the Army Corps of Engineers will allow us to bridge over portions of the wetlands to be able to continue that trail through the wetlands. So yes, it has been delineated and accepted by the Corps, and we're staying off of those wetlands.
Just to piggyback on that real quick, Sandy, can you bring up that map you had that was an actual map? Yeah, so one of the concerns was that this would just keep marching through. For city staff, perhaps, do we know what is the extent of the wetlands in that area? What could be developed in the future? What could not?
Mr. Zuckerman was right. Further to the south, there's more wetlands. And I think it would be very difficult to develop further to the south because of that. Now, there is always the opportunity for people to try to mitigate wetlands off-site, but Mr. Zuckerman's point was correct, and I think development's going to be difficult. This isn't just going to march south.
I mean,
You
when
see
I
it
look
different.
when I look at the map, it almost looks like maybe a little bit along 620 North could be developed, and perhaps that's about it, because the rest looks like it's got a lot of channels and things in it. Do we know?
Then we have a wetlands layer on that.
The wetlands delineation that I looked at, or that we've been using, is the property in question, and then about an equal sized property below it. So you see the the skinnier rectangle and then a bigger rectangle below it, which are almost exclusively wetlands. So
Is that all owned by the city then? Or is this all part of that part that was annexed?
There we go.
There we go.
Because it's a city map, it's painted with a broad brush.
Right.
Can you show us the high water table one? Or is that just going to be depressing?
Everywhere.
Okay.
You see it follows basically, at least where this property concerned, the high water level follows the level of the wetlands.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of that high water table is why we don't have basements out there, right? It's because of that.
And yeah, let's make clear, none of these homes will have basements.
Okay, the other question I wanted to ask city staff was, I heard several people talk about the school capacities not being adequate and the safety issues that they feel like haven't been addressed in a timely manner. Tell me your response to that.
The school crowding situation is a difficult one. I wouldn't want to be in the school district's position to have to manage that. The school populations ebb and flow. They go up and down over years, and it's the school district's job to manage those population shifts. I don't know of a city in the state that stops development because schools are at a capacity. The school district is a governmental entity recognized by the state. It's its own governmental entity, and they are charged with providing classrooms. And they provide those classrooms based on current growth and projected growth by cities' long-range planning documents. I can't imagine cities starting to say, and especially in the midst of the housing crisis we are in, we're going to start slowing down approval of dwelling units because of school populations. I just can't imagine that.
What about the safety issues with crosswalks not being provided or?
I would
near
love to
misses?
talk to citizens to find out where they're talking about and what the city can do to help make that happen. The point that was raised that if you want to slow down traffic, have policemen living in the neighborhood because they take their police cars home with them. And as they're parked in the neighborhoods and as the policemen are going in and out of the neighborhoods, people tend to slow down.
I also know that the city engineering, the traffic engineer listens to people who bring up deficits in this. So
especially
crosswalks, he's done a lot of things to make safer. So I would say contact Vern Kiesler at the city, and he will hate me for saying his name in a public meeting, but he's a very good, responsive man. And I know that it's the police department's responsibility to work with the school district on crosswalks in school zones. So that's unfortunate that it hasn't happened, but it seems like there's two allies that have a vested interest in improving that situation. So
one place I would love just for the city's feedback to be looked at is Bulldog and Lakeshore. That is an intersection that every morning and afternoon gets overloaded and backs up so much coming down from the north that if you're coming from the south and want to turn left, people just stop respecting right of ways and just, my son calls it using a human shield, because you wait till someone's in the crosswalk and then you make sure you make that left turn, and it's not a good situation at that place. Okay. Any other questions or comments that we have?
Are there any improvements happening to Bulldog Lane or anything? Will the development impact Bulldog in a way where traffic calming measures could be a requirement of development?
Well, a big feature of this project is that most of the homes along Bulldog don't have driveways on it. They face it. So I think that just helps by not having all those conflict points of people trying to back out. But are both sides built, Matt? Are both sides of Bulldog built right now? I think they are.
I believe that we have to add
sidewalk.
Yeah, we have to add sidewalk to the west, to the south side of Bulldog Lane. But as Bill was explaining, we tried to not have any entrances on or off of Lakeview at all, and then limit the number of access points to Bulldog to as few as possible. And you see all those lots that are kind of stacked up there in the middle, all of those front off of the new road, not off of Bulldog.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I have a comment. I hope the people here in attendance today get a sense of appreciation of the complexities of this, that it's, and that as a body, as a planning commission, like the balancing act we have to do. We listen to public comment carefully, intently. And these aren't easy things. On one hand, there's concerns with environmental factors, safety factors, vibration and noise and traffic. And then on the other hand, there's housing affordability. I think it's a disgrace that I guess one of my things is, if you're to ask people across the board, you say, oh, we should pay our first responders more, our police, fire more, our teachers more, whatever. But when it comes to asking, like, well, are you willing to raise your taxes to do that? The answer is no. It's always no. And so we're left with situations like this where the city tries to keep and retain some of our most important members of the community, and that's, I think it's a shame when they did the chief say 12% live outside of Provo?
No,
They're in Provo. 12% live in Provo. That's incredibly frustrating. And then a bunch of them live outside of Utah County even, because it's, and then we've looked at this as a planning body, and we look at, okay, the median house for new construction is about like 560,000. And at today's current interest rates, you need to make about 168,000 a year to afford new construction. How many people make that? That's like top 10%, top 8% of the community of income earners. And so it's just, and so we have a shot like this where we have a chance to do something to provide housing, modest housing, that's something that's affordable, that could keep and retain and recruit members of our community. And I just hope that's not lost. This is the balancing act we have. I wish there were ways to bring in some of the other agencies that are involved in this. I've begged, I've brought it up before. I wish Provo School District was more involved in planning and development in Provo City. We can't force them to the table. They're a totally separate legal entity. Because a lot of our complaints happen on how they affect schools. That's a regular complaint we hear with the development that happens in the city. I wish we could bring Army Corps of Engineers in here. Sometimes we could make rezones or other approvals conditional on getting demonstrating approval from UDOT or from Army Corps. We could, I don't know if we could do something like that here, but I've talked enough, but it's just a really complicated juggling act, and you're gonna make people upset no matter which side of the coin you decide on.
Go ahead.
I have two things that are less philosophical. One, how does the appreciation work with this? So the house, right, in 10 years, it's going to be worth more. Then I'm assuming the land is worth more. So the city owns that. And then.
Yeah, so the land trust is going to manage all that. They'll set up the parameters. We'll have that captured in a development agreement. All the details of that. They have a contract that they work with on the buyers. So that's going to be between the city and the land trust to set that appreciation cap. Generally, the way these work in other places
Okay.
is that there is appreciation. It just isn't appreciation like we've seen in the last 5 years, which has kind of been unheard of in my lifetime. So it smooths out that kind of crazy changes that we've seen in the market.
So let me give an example. The house costs $100. We'll
Mhm.
make it simple.
Yep.
The neighbor's house costs $100.
Mhm.
People buy, the neighbors inside the trust, I mean, the neighbors outside, we're inside.
Mhm.
In 10 years, the houses are worth $500
Mhm.
on the outside. What are they worth on the inside? And did the people who lived in that trust capture? Because that's part of the argument, right? Is that we
Mhm.
want to own property because that's how our country is built, right? We want to
Yeah,
follow inflation with
absolutely.
real,
Yeah, that's a great
real
question.
investment.
Yeah, so it does limit, it doesn't get rid of, but it does limit the appreciation. So say the market went up 10% and the agreement limited it to a 4 or 5% appreciation. You wouldn't capture the
Okay.
entire market appreciation that your neighbor was getting, but also you got in the house at a lower price than your neighbor did. So it wasn't the choice between, and I mean, like a lot of people said, I've got kids in this stage of life too. It wasn't a choice between, do I want to pick the market house without the appreciation cap, or do I want to pick the one in the land trust? It's, do I want a house? And the answer that I've heard here from a lot of people and that I hear from my kids is yes, please.
So in that regard, I wish it were a better deal for the first response, for all of our community workers, but I do realize that that's their choice and they can either buy the houses or not. So I'm very grateful that we're offering something for them. And by the way, I think you guys would be awesome neighbors and I wish you lived in my backyard. And then my next question
Can I
is,
just say
yes.
that also preserves the ability for the next person to come in?
Well, right, I see
Yes.
the necessity of that, but I'm sad that it doesn't benefit the first people who bought more, but I
Right.
get it.
And
I
if
get it.
We've, like Matt mentioned, we've done this in several communities, and the ones that have unlimited land sometimes look at it a little different and say, yeah, let that first homeowner capture all the equity they want to, but it's a very different situation when you're a more legacy city like Provo, and those opportunities are more limited to provide new housing.
Okay. My second question was for the builder about, I just wanted you to tell me a little bit more about how the foundations are different, or because we're building on, there's got to be some unknowns, right? About the, so I'm sure you've done soil samples and you've done the due diligence there, but like, what are we looking at running into, and are these houses going to sink like Venice?
That is an engineer question for the engineer.
Yeah. Thank you. So a traditional foundation in areas like this is based upon a geotechnical report, which we've done for this location. It says the footing has to be concrete and it has to be so wide and so deep to be able to carry the load of the house. The advantage that we have is, you know, our technology, our knowledge of foundations is better than it was in 1996. And all of these, all the plans that we have and all the foundations and footings that we pour are not only inspected by the city, but stamped by an engineer, and you know, we just don't expect those sort of problems.
So the specs for the footing and foundation are determined by the soil characteristics, which
Right.
they've already done the study for.
Right.
So let's say it goes south, right? Then who's responsible for that? The city, because we kind of built it. So remember all the houses that slid down the hill last year? Who, in this case, the city is responsible for so much of the building process. Who pays for that if the house's foundations are coming apart?
So correct me if I'm wrong, Bill, but we're the building contractor on this. So anything that a building contractor would be liable for in a normal situation, we're
So like in 10
liable
and
for.
20 years, you'll still be the liable party, or do the homeowners suck it up, or does the city?
Well, I'm not aware of any builder that's responsible 10 or 20 years down the line,
Yeah.
down the road, unless you show something that was truly done incorrectly when it was built.
Right.
Time it was built.
But the relationship is no different than any other house. the land.
So you're saying the homeowner is going to be responsible because they own the brick and mortar, right?
Depending on the deficiency, yes.
Okay, all right.
After sufficient warranty periods and traditional things that builders do to make sure that houses are quality before they turn them over to the homeowner.
Yeah, I think it would fall under homeowners insurance in that case.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we've addressed everything that people have brought up as far as concerns. So we've gone through many of the things that were on my list. I just have a couple of things. One is, can you talk about, Mr. Pepperoni, about space for future school expansion? Do we know if Provo High were to expand, where would they go?
I really don't know. Terry McCabe, who's on the school board and used to be a Franklin neighborhood chair, was in the neighborhood meeting last week. And so she heard very clearly the concerns they have about the situation at Provo High. It was represented that Provo High is at capacity, and I didn't hear Miss McCabe disagree with that or contradict that, but I can't speak to the plans the school district has. I'm sorry.
Okay. The next one is, can you explain why $500,000 for a 1,200 square foot property is actually a good deal? Can you explain that one?
So, as Mr. Gonzalez was talking about, there are a lot of variables here. The variables are when we build this thing, what will the infrastructure costs be? What will the offsite infrastructure costs or the impact of timing on that infrastructure be, and how will that affect the project? What are mortgage rates? What are the rates at which we borrow money to construct subdivisions like this going to be? There's just a lot of stuff that goes into a final number, and although we can't charge more than what we can get people qualified to pay under the program that is set up with Provo City. We want them to be as inexpensive as possible too.
So what you're saying is that based on the way the program will be set up, it will be a better deal than if they were to go out into the community to get that same 1,200 square feet.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank
Yeah, I think in the
Maybe I
report.
should have just said that.
That's okay.
In the report, just a note, since this is public domain, it says the market rate is expected to start at 600,000. So we're talking about a 20% discount on the market rate. So that's
So
pretty steep.
all
discount.
depends on what's happening at the time.
Yep.
Okay. Oh,
Okay, if I can just make a couple
Okay.
comments I wanted to address.
oh, wait, I have a few more. Is that okay?
Yep, please.
As far as the vibration damage protection, you're going to take measures to make sure that there's low vibration, right?
Yes.
Is there any guarantee that you can make to the residents as far as, that their homes will be safe from the vibrations or any
Well,
damage?
We don't expect any. We build subdivisions all the time right next to lots of people. We don't expect any, but we will clearly explain the process, and we will, commit to, if we are within vibration range of activity. The only part that I'm even concerned about is the road that borders up to the backyards of our neighbors there. And construction of the road really doesn't impact the way that we construct roads doesn't impact them really much more than a big garbage truck driving down 3080. Which is actually closer to their house than we will be. But just to make sure there are different ways, different methods that we can use to decrease the vibration in the construction of at least that part of the road.
And I assume you'll be communicating with them on a regular basis as to what you're doing and when. And
Yeah, absolutely.
okay. Another one is the drainage. So speaking of that property with the road right behind those homes, what kind of drainage improvements will be necessary, or what do you think about the drainage?
So as with all subdivisions, we're responsible for draining all of the stormwater from the subdivision that we develop, right? So I would expect the situation to vastly improve over what it is now. Because right now, you know, there is just no engineered drainage for the site. And after we're done, there will be.
And last one, I'm so sorry. Last one is the pedestrian and traffic safety evaluation. And Mr. Day, could you explain, I think that's probably you, right? Could you explain how when projects are that come like this, where in the process are those studies done and what do you know to this point?
Yeah, so David Day with Provo City Public Works. The pedestrian routing, we provide sidewalks on all frontages. I'm not sure of the nature of your question. Do you have something more specific?
Studies, any studies that have been done, and how do you determine when is a light needed and
Oh,
you
yeah,
know.
so with intersections, we do what's called a warrant study to determine if the signal is warranted. And there's a federal process that you go through to verify that a signal is going to be safer than the current situation. You don't want to put it in prematurely because then they cause more accidents than they prevent. So we go through that process. As soon as it meets warrants, we put them in. Probably seen them going in around the city as intersections meet warrants. Probably our most recent one was 9th East and 820 North.
Ms. Kendall, the question you're asking is addressed at the next stage of development. When we submit a subdivision plat, traffic engineering is going to look at the impacts from this subdivision and evaluate intersections. And I'm sure Vern will meet with residents about the crosswalk situation. All of that will be evaluated at the platting stage, which is the next stage after zoning.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so we'll get really specific. This is still considered a concept plan at this point, so we get it generally close, and then we'll look at more specific things like you're asking. So we haven't got to that level yet with like traffic studies and stuff yet, but we will.
But even at this level, you have an idea based on the surrounding roads as to what the capacity is for those roads. So you know that
and-
this amount of homes in this location, the roads have the capacity to manage that. And you'll mitigate any other things that come up.
Yes, they do. And you know, as time goes on, things will grow. Lakeview Parkway is only half of the asphalt width is built currently. Eventually that'll be increased to the full width. And some of the things I've talked about tonight that have been talked about this evening about what's happening around school starting and ending. I'm going to have our people go out and study that intersection, because if it's getting to what I heard, it may be approaching a warrant for something right there, some sort of a traffic device.
Yeah, and it is an interesting intersection because most of the day it's empty and it's fine.
Yeah.
But then there's those two times where it gets really,
Yeah.
really bad.
20 minutes before and after.
Yeah.
Any other?
Mine's another math question. I'm thinking about money. I'm sorry. So let's say the house is worth
Thank you,
500
David.
and it doubles and you have a cap on the appreciation. I would assume as time goes on, if we keep having building booms, that the price proportionally to right now to like 20 years from now could be quite inexpensive. Is that making sense what I'm
Yes,
saying?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a possibility. And the land trust and the city would have to decide if they wanted to rebalance something in the future.
But that could be a benefit for the city, right? Because then we have a more enticing
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
offering for our, okay, I get
Yep.
it.
Yep. Okay, a couple of things I just wanted to cover. One, it was brought up, why are we not paying our public servants more? This is always an issue. I think it's a very interesting issue as cities get bigger and more expensive. And it's actually not limited to cities. When I was applying for professorships, I looked at places like Stanford and I did my PhD at Columbia. Both of them offer subsidized housing much like this for their professors, right? And you go and it's the same thing. You buy, but the university kind of co-owns the house with you, so your appreciation's limited. It's exactly the same deal. And so this is a very common solution when cost of living gets crazy. And I think part of the reason why I do this instead of just pay everybody more is that if you look at food prices and other kinds of expenses, the housing cost is just out of whack, right? And so you can specifically target this cost and not have to up their entire wage, right? By doing that. And because the city retains ownership, like we've talked about, they maintain that benefit into the future without incurring additional costs like an increased wage would. So it ends up being in the long run cheaper. So I think that's important to understand that as cities grow, this becomes more and more common. The other one, it was brought up in several of the letters. So I did a little research on it. The question was, why not a grocery store? Bill partially addressed this. But a big thing about it is that grocery stores need a certain number of households in order to be sustainable, right? And you've got Walmart in Orem that's not that far away. You've got the new Walmart coming into the south, and you've got Fresh Market just across the freeway. And so the area that this would actually capture for a grocery store is quite small. And I actually had staff look it up. On the entire west side in District 3, there's about 5,000 homes. A grocery store to be profitable, even a pretty small one, needs 8,000 to 10,000 homes from my research. So we are well below it. And especially because west of here is never going to be developed. It's a lake, right? And they'll never be able to bring in customers from the west. I just don't think this is ever going to be a viable place for those kinds of things. And so residents often ask, why don't we look at these kinds of things, et cetera? We do. Bill showed that the city had looked at this, tried to find reasonable areas. I'm still very sad that Center Street couldn't work out, but I also think that is a good example of how hard it is to get something like that to work out on the west side because of the geography and those kinds of limitations. That someone on Geneva and Center Street right off a major freeway exit with incentives from the city still could not get themselves to say, yeah, this is worth taking that risk, right? Restaurants, I looked at it too, same thing. The biggest difficulty there is actually during the school year with the lunch rush, they might be able to make it, but school's out all summer. And they would lose their traffic, and it also just doesn't pencil out. You can't get it done. My other concerns, I'm very glad they were well addressed about wetlands, guarantees for neighbors, those kinds of things. I'm very grateful for the neighbors that came and brought up these concerns because they are real concerns, and we can't solve all of them, but it is something that we consider and we think about. So with that, any other comments? Yeah, Joel?
Did you all look at options like mixed use zoning, something where you could utilize both commercial and residential? Like you mentioned, there are certain minimum thresholds you need to make something viable, but I don't know, like a small corner store, a convenience store, is that something that could service this corner, more immediately while there are still Walmart and Fresh Market available? But is that something, does it help it pencil out better too, having commercial property?
We certainly look at commercial use and mixed use wherever we can in many places around the city. For example, we have mixed use at the intersection of Geneva and Center again. There's already a mixed use building approved on the southwest corner of that. We have mixed use nodes along Lakeview Parkway at all the major intersections. We've tend to locate those in areas with much higher trip volumes around it than here. It really makes me wonder if that would work here because of the lower traffic volumes. But yes, we look at mixed use very frequently.
Realistically, looking at this, the way the property is shaped, where would you put it? And to me, it looks like you'd put it at Lakeview and Bulldog. Because if you put it on Lakeshore and Bulldog, it's too narrow, right? Can't put it on any of the other side with the wetlands. Put it smack in the middle. Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, to be honest, I always think it's interesting that Provo residents are always like, where can my kids go off campus to get lunch? I grew up in California. You were not leaving that campus during the school day. It was absolutely prohibited. So it's such an interesting question to me. But Lisa? I
It's
think you
the
had your hand
right
up.
to a milkshake question.
Yeah.
I just wanted to respond to one of the comments you made about fair wages and providing this amenity, this service. That Officer Williams actually said he feels like he makes a competitive wage, that it's a fair wage for the market. So it's not like Provo's ripping off their first responders. It's a universal problem. And then I just wanted to make sure that my questions earlier about marketing were not misunderstood. I wasn't worried about getting the word out. I was worried about making sure that the people that we're trying to help actually have a shot at it, that they would be able to have the first choice and that there weren't any legal restrictions on that. So I got my answer, but yeah, I'm not saying we need to market this more because I believe it will go really quickly.
Okay. Any other comments or are we ready for a motion?
I just want to say I agree with a lot of your comments, and I think the housing, I mean, for me, I feel like it's like a moral obligation to do what we can. And I would just encourage anybody who has concerns about the wetlands or traffic to get in touch with the people who handle those things, because it did work to bug Vern for 5 years. I got a flashing 25-mile-per-hour sign in front of my house. So yeah, just talk to the city.
And now it keeps her up at night. Just kidding.
Flashes in her window.
Can I actually ask one more thing about the wetlands? So this is still a concept plan, right? But when it's ultimately platted, is that going to be preserved as open space in perpetuity, or is there a risk of something coming in down the road where it does start to encroach further and further into that? I see it's designated by FEMA, that whole southern strip, but
So everything in dark green is what's called jurisdictional wetlands, which means it's under the Corps of Engineers jurisdiction and not ours. That is, if we touch them, then we need to go through a whole bunch of stuff to be able to touch them, just like any other designated wetlands. So the answer is no. We've decided to stay out of their jurisdiction and only impact the land through this development in areas that aren't covered by their jurisdiction.
So it'd be shown on the plat as perpetual open space.
thank you. Yeah, that alleviates a lot of my concerns too about any possible wetland impacts. Thank you.
So as we talk about making a motion, I love that the city is collaborating on a project that meets multiple needs at once. I love that there's a contractor that does quality development, so we can feel confident if this gets approved in moving forward. I like that it's deed restricted so that we don't just get an initial need met, but it will always meet this need. I like the caps that are on it so that it preserves it for this demographic that we're hoping to help. And I feel like most of the questions and concerns that were raised have been answered. If in fact the wetlands are marked and then I'm not worried about taking away habitat and areas. As a matter of fact, it sounds like the developer plans to make that even nicer without touching it too much so that it's an amenity that can be enjoyed instead of just sitting there. So I feel like this is something we talk a lot about. How do we make this happen? How do we make this happen? And when these come forward in such a nicely articulated way, to me, it feels like a win-win. I always ask the question, if this were across the street from me or in my backyard, would I be mad about it? And I feel like it would be taking all the goals that we're trying to meet, all the objectives we're trying to meet, and the fact that we can't tell somebody they can't develop their land because we like it to stay empty. I feel like it meets that. Nope. But I also had a lot of development behind my house 25 years ago, 27 years ago, that was doing what this neighbor these neighbors described, where my walls were shaking, everything was rattling for a long, long time, and that's the nature of construction. And I feel like if the contractor knows that's a concern, short of saying you can't develop your land because somebody else did a not stellar job on someone's foundation, I would hope that it would work out well for you. I know what it's like to have development come in next to you that is a little shifty.
Please,
No.
please don't speak out of turn.
No.
Thank you.
I just want you to know we're hearing you and we understand the problem. But I feel like we can't tell someone they can't develop their land just because somebody else did something poorly. So those are my thoughts.
Any other thoughts before we make motion? Okay, who wants to make the motion on this one?
I'll do it.
Okay.
I make a motion for item number 3 that the planning commission recommend approval to the municipal council of the proposed zone map amendment from OSPR and R1.20 to R1.6 PD at 3200 West Bulldog Lane.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion before we vote?
I would just like to make sure that people understand this is a recommendation and that the same concerns that were addressed tonight can go to the city council when it's heard by them, and you can make sure that they understand the problems that you have in your neighborhood and it's not a done deal tonight.
Yeah, and then also just to engage with some of the other agencies that are involved, like the school board.
Get some of these questions answered in the interim about the schools and the crosswalks and other things, so you know the options that you can discuss.
Army Corps has a public relations person that handles public inquiries. And I think Utah Division of Natural Resources does too. They mark wetlands up too.
I would also say seek some legal advice on how you can protect yourself if something does happen from the construction kind of thing. But that's out of our purview, like Lisa said. Okay. Let's go ahead and do the vote, starting to my left.
Aye.
Yeah.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
And I'll vote aye, so item 3 passes unanimously. That concludes all the items on our meeting. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Second?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Second.
Yeah, second.
We took it. We took it.
It was a long, drawn out sentence. I will second it.
You guys have a